Welcome into Sports Memo's Betting Podcast, NFL Opening Line Report with Teddy Covers and myself, Drew Martin. Teddy, welcome in. Happy Monday morning to you.
So this is an exciting Monday, not just because it's 420. It's an exciting Monday because there's something that's going to happen this week. There's a draft, and it's going to happen, and bets are going to get made, and bets are going to get paid. So it's something we haven't seen in any of the major sports in quite some time. So I'm feeling good on a Monday. How about you?
I'm feeling good as well, Teddy. You're right. It is April 20th, 2020. So kind of like the ultimate 420 here, but we're concentrating on the NFL draft. So at least for now. And hey, Teddy, we got the NFL draft this week on Thursday night. And guys, we're also going to be breaking down the NFC West season win totals with Teddy. Of course, his season win total report available at sportsmemo.com each and every year. Amazing winning record for Teddy over the years. It goes back multiple years, even decades. Teddy, can we use the word decades? Or are we short of the...
My first win report came out in 2001. So yeah, we can use decades plural at this stage. It's been real good. The long term, I've hit 2 out of 3, or close to 2 since 2001 with these win reports. So obviously, they've been something the clients look forward to. They've been something I look forward to. It gives me a good focus through the summer months. Last year was not a good year with the win totals. So if ever there's a year that I'm hungry and motivated, and oh, by the way, I've had plenty of time over the last month. I'm expecting profitable results in 2020 with these win totals. No question. I really am.
It's something I've tailed myself personally and had some success in the past. Off of a down year, so a bounce back year as well. So be ready for that, guys. It's also available with his NFL and college football full season there, sportsmemo.com. So welcome in, everyone. David Finch. Broke Mechanic, welcome in, guys. Shout us out. Any questions you want answered here on the chat box on YouTube. Also have some questions on Twitter that we're going to hammer out as well. But Teddy, talking about NFL draft here, we will have, I don't know if you want to call them best bets or bets we're looking at. I know I got 2 that I'm looking at betting pretty heavy. So we'll get to those. But one thing that was kind of on an interesting question here, Teddy, was will the NFL have technical issues with the NFL draft? In your opinion, would that be a yes or a no? And what would you price that at?
So you got to give me a strong definition of technical issues, because I think unquestionably there's 280 for this one.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Because it's all individual guys and individual. So of course something's going to go wrong. It has to go wrong. I was watching a little bit of the test the other night. And again, it worked fine, but you would anticipate that. I would expect minor technical snafus. Do I think a team is going to lose a draft pick because they can't get the pick in or something like that? No, I don't expect anything significant. But will the broadcast at one point, go to a blank screen? Of course it will at some point. It's going to be a pretty heavy. I wouldn't want to be the director for that broadcast. I think it's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, Saturday?
Yeah, the first round is on Thursday, and the next 2 rounds are on Friday, and the final 4 rounds are on Saturday. So, whatever. I mean, the NFL draft in terms of television, it's compelling only in the sense of you get a sense of the direction that the teams are going in, and you get a ton of hype in that regard. Generally, in years past, I'm watching the first round because sometimes you get bets in the first round, but really, mostly what I'm doing is looking at the draft at the end of it and saying, these were their needs. Did they fill their needs? And that's still my goal for this one. So I'll probably be watching it closer pick by pick than I have in years past, but the end result is still the same. Right now I've got a list, 32 teams and what I think they need. And at the end of the draft, I'm going to adjust my power ratings based on do they have players who can contribute in those positions that they need right now? And again, the draft, I love the draft because, hope springs eternal and every player is the best prospect of their position in 27 years. And, they're all being compared to Hall of Famers coming out and all of that. But the markets tend to overreact a little bit to teams that supposedly have good drafts or bad drafts Draft grading post-draft day tends to be every bit as inaccurate as the mock drafts that you're reading right now, which is also worth talking about, Drew. In a year where there's nothing going on in terms of, well, I mean, I think there are two nuances to this draft that are worth noting. One is that because all the scouts didn't get together, there's no groupthink this year. You know what I mean? There's no, you know how when me, at a Tuesday group meeting, okay, back in the day, when so-and-so would talk, all right, well, here's a case for the Rams, and so-and-so else, but hey, here's another thing I'm looking about at the Rams. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the Tuesday group meeting, I was like, yeah, I kind of like the Rams today. I kind of like the Rams, this week.
Yeah.
That groupthink mentality. In this instance, each organization really is on their own little island and have been for a month plus. So you don't have that groupthink. So the more I'm thinking about this and the more in terms of a way to approach betting the draft right now, if you haven't made it's one thing if you have this whole portfolio, you got all these great positive expectation bets that are gone now. If you're looking to bet the draft here, on Monday or this week, I might be looking to take advantage of some of the overreactions, some of the plus prices more than I would be the other way around, because there's no groupthink this year, and that means that every organization really has only one goal for the entire pre-draft process, and that goal is disinformation. You see what I'm saying? It behooves them to send people in the wrong directions, even more so than the average year. So I wouldn't be surprised if every mock is completely wrong. Okay? And every mock's completely wrong every year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're even more wrong than usual. But in the nuances of this particular draft, where the betting markets are like, this is going to happen. The minus 110 is now minus 560 on some of these we're going to talk about. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a profitable strategy betting against some of these, it's a lock type of draft scenarios, just because there's a lot of misinformation, and it's the goal of any smart organization to deliver that misinformation. And this year, there's not a lot of ability for teams or even reporters to dig underneath that misinformation. What the organizations are telling them is what they're going to get. So as a strategy right now, I'm not laying minus $5 on anything or minus $6. I would definitely, as an overall strategy, look to take advantage of some of the things that the markets think is an absolute lock. That may not be an absolute lock.
Yeah, Teddy, I could absolutely see that. More outliers being selected this year than in years past. Absolutely. Something I've done personally, Teddy. I think it kind of correlates to what you were saying. I didn't really dive deep into what GMs are saying, what organizations are saying, until my plan was this week. Because I've seen a lot of people in our industry talking about in weeks past and months past, hey, this team said this team said this. I'm going to bet on this because they said this. And I'm like, wait, haven't we learned anything from years past that disinformation is out there? They're saying that for a reason. So I've personally made the effort not to listen to that. And heck, I might not do it the whole draft, but I totally agree with you. Some of these moves I would look to kick, a minus 100. I might actually buy low on that situation, Betty. So I like where you're going with that. One pick I wanted to throw at you, get your opinion. Second quarterback drafted, Tua or Herbert. It's actually moved from Tua minus 150, if not higher, to now it's almost a pick 'em. Any opinion there on Tua and Herbert?
So if I'm going to bet it, I can only bet Tua because I think Tua is the better quarterback. And I think organizations realize that Tua is the better quarterback. That's the only way I could bet it. We've heard a lot of anti-Tua stuff, more anti-Tua stuff than I think anti any other player in the media buzz over the course of the last 2 weeks, whether it's his Wonderlic score being leaked or all the anonymous quotes talking about he's a fragile player and all of that. It almost feels like there's some kind of effort for someone that wants to see if he drops a little bit. If healthy, I'll take Tua over Herbert in a New York minute. Okay. If you say these two quarterbacks are going to be healthy for the next 10 years, who's going to be the better QB? I don't think it's close. All right. Herbert, I mean, we watched him a lot, Drew. He's I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I certainly don't think he's a star quarterback in the NFL. And from the Tua standpoint, I keep hearing people, well, he had the best receivers and he had the best offensive line. And he did have all of that. Agreed. He had 4 NFL receivers throwing, that most college quarterbacks don't have. But he also hit them in stride.
Yeah.
On the run with bullets 65 yards down the field. I personally think that there's more upside with Tua. And if I'm drafting a quarterback at the top of the first round, I want the upside guy, even with the downside that could be associated with his injury risk. So if I had to make that bet, again, we've heard nothing but negatives on Tua. And when you hear this many negatives, it probably means that someone wants him and is hoping he's going to drop.
100% agree with you, Teddy. I mean, there is arguments against him. He had, the best offensive line, the best wide receivers. I agree with all that. But at the same time, he leaves college football as the number one, passing efficiency leader for each of his last 2 years. Go ahead.
And we have to. So there's a big difference in the draft analytics between the pundits that watch college football and the pundits that look at statistical profiles of college football. Okay. We watch college football, you and I. We're not looking at Tua's statistical profile and saying, yeah, well, this is what it looks like. And Herbert's. No, we watched. And from the eye test, and I don't think there's any more important test for a quarterback in college. Sorry, I don't care how tall you are. I don't care any of that. I want to see how you perform in a game under pressure. Tua passed. He passed every test.
He passed from the get-go, Teddy. Don't forget his first a backup.
Yeah.
In major college football.
I think he won a national title that night, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Man.
So measurables. All right, he's tall, he's big. They like the guys that have the extra size, that haven't been hurt. But again, the guys who I think Tua is a better prospect. Period. End of story. And in terms of upside, but that also means that there's a potential downside for Tua. When you have the upside guy, the injury, he does have an injury history. He does play in a style that gets quarterbacks hurt. And there's, if you're saying which of the two QBs is more likely to have a complete dud of a career, it might well be Tua. But if I'm drafting first round, quarterback, I want the guy with the upside, even if he has the downside that goes along with it. I don't want your ham and egg, or I don't want the pedestrian QB who can get you there. I don't want Joe Flacco. Even though he won Super Bowls.
I'm 100% in agreement with you, Teddy. I mean, Tua, for everything, the negatives, he also played against competition, against the best, the minor league of the NFL, if you will. I agree with you. Minus 120 to get Tua ahead of Herbert. I watched a lot of college football, a lot of both of these quarterbacks, college football. And yes, Herbert played well in the Pac-12 championship game. You can point towards things. He also struggled on the road multiple times, Teddy. I just put a free play up, sportsmemo.com. Check it out, guys. I wrote it up. Tua minus 120 to be drafted before Justin Herbert. It's something I bet personally. It's my biggest bet of the draft. I only have 2 bets in the draft as of now, and that's the one I laid the most on, Teddy. So that's why I wanted to ask you first your opinion on Tua ahead of Herbert. I think Herbert, he's okay. He's got the measurables. I think he could be a solid quarterback in the NFL. But when you talk about duds, yes, Tua has injury history. Could Herbert be a dud as well? Absolutely, man. It's not like he lit the world on fire throughout his career in the Pac-12. I mean, to tell you the truth, Teddy, in terms of rating it out, potential versus duds at the quarterback position in the NFL, all the quarterbacks could be duds, man. I mean, the first we've seen the first pick in the NFL draft be a dud multiple times in the past.
I know.
So I wouldn't draft off of that.
I mean, and again, what you're going to hear on draft day is he's the best prospect since this. Everyone's going to get compared to this Hall of Famer or that Hall of Famer. And not half, more than half of them will be busts. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it works. So, hope springs eternal on draft day. I'm always, as someone who watches college football, I want the guys that actually produced in college football, as opposed to the guys that, oh, wow, he had a great combine. Oh, look at his athleticism. Yeah, he can jump. Okay. I want a guy that showed me something on the field. And there's so many, when we start talking about some of these props, where, where's this lineman going to go? I mean, there's 4 offensive tackles that are supposed to go in the first half of the first round. And you can find these props. Is so-and-so going to go to this team or that team or the other? And it's like, it's really hard. The same thing with wide receivers. Who's going to go? Is it going to be, is Riggs or Judy or whoever's going to go? And there's a ton of misinformation out there. I think the better bets might be, depending on what kind of live action you can see, after a handful of guys come off the board, Team X has their need is offensive line or their need is wide receiver. They'll have a pretty good chance of picking those guys, but of course there'll be a price you're going to have to lay with that. But I think it will be predictable as the draft goes on, just in terms of live betting. I know that the live betting in previous drafts, the books have gotten hammered, and it hasn't done particularly well. I'll be interested to see what's going to be out there for the live betting on draft night. And in years past, like I said, the bettors have done fairly well in that regard.
All right, Teddy, we got a bunch of guys in the chat box. Thanks for joining us. Chris WagerTalk, what's up, buddy? Paco Healy, what is up, my friend? Finch family, welcome in. Mike Black, what is up, man? We got some guys in here from England. Welcome in, Paul, from the other side of the pond there. Beat the house as well. We got Andrew McGinnis. What's up, buddy? So OG Wham, hit the like button. OG Wham, that's our buddy from a long time. Shout out to you, man. Sorry for your loss as well, buddy. Teddy, threw out a bet I like. What are some bets off the board you want to throw out here to the watchers, man?
Well, I mean, there's literally so many to talk about. Okay. I'm just, of course, it's trying to scroll down, and now everything's not moving. So there we go. Let's talk some draft position props. And again, I mean, around Vegas right now, you can really find props at just about any sports book. I'm going to go through some of the ones here. I got William Hills we can talk about. We can talk about Circas if you want. There's a ton of draft position props I'm interested in. But let's start, Tua, 3.5 over minus 200. Okuda over 1.5. And I think Okuda goes, the question here for is whether Detroit trades down and still gets their guy or not. So the 3.5 for Tua, you taking over or under? He's minus 200 to the over.
I would take minus 200. I think he's going to go to the Dolphins, so it would correlate with the over.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. There's some deals between now and Thursday. And again, I don't know how easy it's going to be to trade in that regard on draft night, but I would think leading up to the draft, throughout the day on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to see a handful of deals. I'm an Isaiah Simmons fan. He's at 6.5. The under minus 145 at William Hill. I think Isaiah Simmons goes in the top 6. I don't think there's any question about Derek Brown over under draft position 8.5. I think he has a good chance to go under exactly. Yeah. Becton's at 8.5. I think there's a good chance he goes over. I think, again, the buzz on, and again, you're reading buzz on him. Is that disinformation buzz on Becton for someone that wants him early? Or is that, all right, well, there's 3 other guys, there's 3 other top half of the first round prospects, and then Becton drops. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Becton's at 8.5. Wirfs is at 8.5. So you have these guys that are, Andrew Thomas is at 12.5, and Thomas might be the best prospect of the bunch. He's a beast. I want to keep moving. Caesars draft props, total quarterbacks in the first round, over under 4, over minus 140. 4 is the right number. At 4.5, you go under.
I like the under, Teddy. I just think it's a weak quarterback class. I really do. Starting from the top. I mean, I know a lot of people would throw out like, oh my gosh, how can you say that? I really do. I mean, I think Tua's the best prospect. He's not going to go number 1. But I just think it's a weak time. When Jordan Love, who might turn in to be a quality quarterback at the next level, Teddy, is number 4 on the list. Compared to past years, man, it's weak, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love he's another guy that has the measurables. He's tall. He's big. He has big hands. The arm strength is there. The measurables look really good. Guys like Jordan Love test well at the combine, or in that type environment. Again, we watched him play. He wasn't a superstar. He's 260. I could only look under there. 2.5. That means it's got to be 3 QBs taken in the top 5 to lose that, but you got to lay minus 260 to do it.
I don't know.
I've talked a lot about the wide receivers. Wide receivers first round over 5.5 and under 6.5. I think it's going to be 6. And there's the obviously juice from one book to the next is significant. Bama players in the first round over under 5.5 over plus 105. Herbert versus Love. Herbert's minus 580 to get drafted first. Wills versus Becton minus 145. And on and on. Let's keep moving, though. There was a bunch of circa props that interested me. Total QBs in draft in the first round. There's a 4.5 for you with the under minus 565. So note the difference there. All right. 4. All right. What was the 4? The total QBs drafted in the first round was 4 over minus 140.
Mm-hmm.
Total QBs in the first round over under 4.5. The under's minus 565.
Okay, so some differences here.
Half a QB's worth something.
Yeah.
A lot. Because there ain't going to be 5 QBs and everyone knows it. And that's why it's going in this way. So here's an interesting one. And this is one that is worth talking about for just a minute. The running backs, all right? You can bet total running backs in the first round over under a half. Over minus 210, under minus 180. All right?
Okay.
You can bet the draft position, will DeAndre Swift be taken in the first round? And that's basically a minus 110 type of prop. He's the only running back that's going to go in the first round. All right.
So might as well bet it that way, yeah.
Yeah, of course. You can lay a price, you can pick it at even money. And to me, Swift, if you think there's an RB going in the first round, you take Swift to go. Because Jonathan Taylor's not a first round grade. He's not going to the first round. And there's really only 2 teams at the back of the first round, Miami and KC, that even have a running back need. And if Swift is gone, I don't think KC goes running back. I really don't. So that's the one, that if you have the ability to shop from book to book and the patience to do it, you'll find stuff like that. That's one that stuck out to me. The QB props, one at 4 and one at 4.5. And the how do you deal with Swift and running backs taken? Is there another running back going to get taken in the first round? Not likely. So if I think that Swift is going to, if I think there's RB taken, I'd rather have Swift in the first round than lay any price on the RB. So, and again, some of this stuff now, Chase Young, draft position over under 2.5, the under is minus $8 now, Yeah, a lot of like we said last week, the best stuff goes from pick 'em to minus $5 in 15 minutes, and that's just when the info comes out, it gets popped. And obviously Chase Young likely to go with the number 2 pick. But again, this is one year where there's more misinformation than usual. I'll just leave it at that. And I'd be reluctant to rely on mainstream media report. This is something I wanted to talk about real quick. When you're getting your info and you're betting info, so help me God, please don't be looking at the national writers. Okay. Your beat writers are going to give you the info that you want. If you're really going to research into these draft props, don't look at what ESPN thinks the Steelers are going to draft. Look at what the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette thinks the Steelers are going to draft. It makes a difference.
That goes with a lot of sports betting, Teddy, in my opinion, even more so in the NFL draft, most likely. We got some questions here on the chat we're going to get to. I did want to ask you one here. It's a kind of a popular one, a name from college football. We'll see in the NFL. Which round will Jalen Hurts be drafted? Round 1 plus 600, round 2 plus 125, round 3 plus 110, and after round 4 plus 450. Any thoughts on Jalen Hurts?
I'm not sold on him. So from a personal standpoint, he didn't pass my eye test. I'm taking the over on Jalen Hurts. That being said, again, he's another guy with measurables, and the measurable guys get drafted, sooner than the bunch. And let's, again, talk about the best props you're going to bet are yes, no, over, under. 2 options. Once you start getting into the first round, second round, third round, fourth or later, and there's 4 options, the house takeout increases, and your chances of winning are significantly lower. So to make those bets, you need to have a bigger edge. I don't have one here. In terms of a bigger edge, I don't think he's going to go. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't bet first round and I wouldn't bet second round on Hurts. I really wouldn't.
Okay, I'm with you, Teddy, and that's a great reminder. I know most people watching this are not amateur sports bettors, so it's just a great reminder to say, stick to the yes, no, the two selection sports betting options, not when there's four or five, just because there's more take, there's more of a vig. It costs you more to place that bet. So great point, Teddy. Great reminder there. We got a question here. Andrew McGinnis asking. Asked Teddy his thoughts on Xavier McKinney under or over 25 and a half, 24 and a half.
Ask Teddy his thoughts on Xavier McKinney. I have no thoughts on Xavier McKinney. He's not someone that I've done any work on. So I'm sorry, Andrew. I appreciate the question, but I don't really have a good answer for you. I don't want to give you BS. So.
Okay, we got Paul asking, do you think this will be the most watched draft in history?
100%. It will be the most watched draft in history. It will be the most bet on draft in history. Ain't nobody got nothing to do. I mean, again, on a normal year, I don't watch the NFL draft. I really don't. I'm watching NBA playoffs. I'm watching the baseball. My focus is not on the draft. In terms of that night, you follow the picks as they come in, but you're not, my TV screen with sound is not on the draft ever.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
And this year it will be.
Yeah, there's less competition. I know I'm going to be watching it from start to finish. And years past, I'm with you, Teddy. I would have other sports on, so you're 100% right. We got Paco saying Vince Young and Leinart passed the eye test too, though. Actually, Paco, I would disagree with you a little bit. Both great college quarterbacks. Vince Young, yes, the volatile type. How is he going to do in the NFL? I do agree with you. He kind of passed the eye test, especially with how he ended college football with arguably the best performance of my lifetime. But Leinart, not so much. I was not sold on Matt Leinart when he left college football and went into the NFL. I think Tua is a lot more polished and a lot better passer than Matt Leinart. Teddy, what are your thoughts?
Interesting. So I personally, when Vince Young, I'm like, Vince Young has no chance in the NFL. He's the wrong size. He's the wrong type of QB. I didn't think Vince Young was going to be a good NFL quarterback, and he wasn't. Matt Leinart, I thought was going to be a star. Okay. Matt Leinart, I thought was a star in college. I thought he was going to be a star in the NFL. One thing that measurables can never tell you is what's in somebody's heart, how hungry they are. Matt Leinart got to Arizona and started partying, and he's a millionaire now. And he's, that first picture of him in the hot tub, remember? And that's all. That was his career. It was Matt. It's all right. I'm making a bunch of money and I'm having a good time, and how driven somebody is once they become rich is not easy to characterize. All right. And in my experience, I've seen guys that have been very hungry young in their careers, and they make a little bit of money and they're not as hungry. I've seen other guys that are very hungry when they're young in their career and are just as hungry when they've made a bunch of money and now they want to make more money. It might be circumstantial. It is like but there's some character in there. And when you talk about eye test, we don't see the eye test is only what a guy can do in the field. We don't have that interview with them where we got to get a sense of what somebody's character is. And frankly, again, when you look at the draft process where half of everything is wrong, I mean, dead wrong, the half of the first rounders are wrong and busts. It's not an easy process to figure out who's really hungry and who isn't. Leinart wasn't, and I didn't see that. So I was wrong. I wasn't wrong about Vince. I mean, Vince Young, I thought he was too little to play in the NFL. I didn't think he had the ability to throw deep against NFL defenses, and that turned out to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely right there. Teddy, we got the NFC West to get to. Should we get to it right off the bat, or you?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's answer the Twitter question, though. I know that someone asked us the Twitter question as well.
Okay, we got Darren Schwartz here. Happy 420 off the bat. Opinion on which coaches do the best job adapting and making adjustments outside of Belichick? ? Do you think we should be looking to bet on these coaches early with the weird offseason?
It's an excellent question. It's an interesting question. And again, happy 420, everyone out there. No, I'm not smoking pot right now. It's a little early for that. I don't think it would make for a good podcast either. But for those of you who are already indulging, cheers. I don't know that coaching is going to matter more any year than it will this year. So I agree with the assessment.
Yeah.
The ability for a coach to put together a game plan a coaching staff to put together a game plan, and the ability of a team to execute that game plan is paramount. So when you say a coach, and this is, in my mind, it's much more than a coach in this instance. So I will be looking to bet on the teams that have experienced coaches, experienced coordinators, experienced veteran leaders, particularly at the quarterback position. I think those teams will absolutely have an edge. And there's a good handful of them. When you look at the teams that don't necessarily have that edge, teams that made off-season coaching moves, even with an experienced guy like Ron Rivera, I think it becomes much worse when you're trying to install systems this particular offseason, when you're trying to measure some of the intangibles that we were just talking about. How hungry, how driven are these players? You get a sense of that over a full training camp. Maybe over a lesser training camp, you don't. So I really think the new coaches in new situations, new coordinators in new situations, those bet against in the season. As for the coaches who can do it on the fly, again, Belichick's been pretty darn good in that role, but it's not just him, it's him and the staff. And I'm telling you, I mean, that when you grade the Patriots, they are not a good football team. My initial thought was Belichick. And when I graded out New England, I'm like, there ain't no freaking way I'm betting this team over their win total. I don't know if I get there under, but I'm sure as hell not betting the Patriots over. So for as brilliant as Belichick has been, talent matters. And veteran leadership on the squad matters. And right now, Brian Hoyer, Jarrett Stidham, it's not just those guys. What's their offensive line doesn't look any good. Whatever. Let's not. I don't talk to the Patriots. Talking NFC West today. Sorry.
It's okay, Teddy. I mean, I think that the Patriots are a fascinating handicap. Talking about Belichick in the question, and you look at their quarterback room. I mean, Hoyer, say what you want. Stidham, as an Auburn guy, I can tell you this. I think Stidham is overrated. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots are one of the teams that trade up for a quarterback. I haven't heard many people talk about that. So, I don't know, just kind of something off the radar.
And we just got a question in on Twitter from Pete Stulak. Hey, Pete, what's going on? Appreciate the question. Asking us if it's worth taking Burrow, Young, Okudah, 1, 2, 3 exact order at plus 180. No, that's not a bet I would make. I might lay the price with Burrow and Young 1, 2. But Okudah, there's too much. There's a chance Detroit trades down. There's a lot of uncertainty with that third pick. If Detroit takes it, I think Okudah goes there. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they trade that and then somebody else goes there. So that's not a bet that I personally would make, even at plus 180.
Yeah, I think the door kind of opens at pick number 3, Teddy. I mean, it could be a quarterback, it could be Okudah, it could be Derek Brown, it could be a number of people. I wouldn't just focus in on one player with that third pick, right?
It depends on who's getting traded. I mean, the Lions are open to a trade.
Okay. Teddy, let's go NFC West here. Wrong show here, but we got San Francisco 49ers 10.5 as their season win total. Teddy, what are you thinking here? San Francisco 49ers. Also, I want to get your opinion. We got the draft this Thursday. I just saw the commissioner saying the NFL scheduling will be made by May 9th.
Yes.
So there's a window here to be placing these bets or not placing these bets. Wait until that comes out. Your overall thoughts on that and San Francisco 49ers 10.5.
Sure. So what's going to happen is after the draft, the markets are going to adjust, based on whatever perception of what teams are going to do. And then they're not likely to adjust again after that schedule gets announced on May 9th. Maybe a little nuance there. I'm targeting that date. That's a day where I want to be because I really think the nuance of the schedule will offer us some additional opportunities that are not there now. And I'm not making bets up and down. I'm not peppering the board with bets until I see that schedule because how the opponents are laid out can make a 2-win difference. If it's same opponents, but how they're laid out and how I'm going to grade it out here and grade it out on paper, it could easily be just on how they're played, as many as 2 wins if the schedule breaks out nicely or if it breaks out difficultly, disastrously for them. And in some circumstances, more. When you have a bad team that they have a front-loaded schedule and hey, they're going to start out 1-7. If they're lucky, they go 2-6, and now it's rebuild mode. Makes a big difference if you have the early games easy. Hey, maybe this team's 4-4 at the halfway point. In terms of how you can handicap the second half of the season. So I'm looking forward to that May 9th date. We talk about San Francisco, and again, let me give the division odds real quick. You talked about their over/under 10.5. The Niners are basically pick even money to win the NFC West. The Seahawks are in the 2.5 to 1 range. The Rams in the 3.5 to 1 range, and the Cardinals a little bit higher than that. Although Arizona has been a very attractive choice in the offseason, but San Fran as a squad that went to the Super Bowl last year, and a squad that certainly isn't. They're not down from you. They have a handful of holes to fill. But they're not a team that you're like, oh boy, they went to the Super Bowl last year and this year's going to be a disaster. They look pretty good. That being said, you talk about they're lined as one of the elite teams in the NFL, 10.5 with juice to the over. And when you grade it out, they grade out as about 11 plus win team this year. The defense should be dynamite again. And I mean dynamite. We're talking about the loss of Buckner is going to kill their defense. No, it isn't. The question is how good Garoppolo is going to be and what they're going to do at receiver. Right? Because right now, in terms of skill position talent, San Fran's of all the teams lined in this range, the Niners in this range, the Niners have the least skill position talent by a fairly wide margin. Of course, we know the curse of the Super Bowl loser, and again, Jimmy G showed signs of being good, but he never showed signs of being great last year. I'm not particularly bullish on a Super Bowl loser going over 10.5 the next year, especially with juice coming to the over. Although, should they be the favorite in this division? They're the best team on paper in this division, and they really are.
Okay. Teddy, we got OG Wham. He's saying, I'm smoking for you, Teddy. Paco laughing. A lot of people laughing at that one. So we got Chris welcome in, Cody as well. Austin Burke, Derek Brown, under 8.5, big bet, question mark. I mean, I like it under 8.5 if you can find it. I've found actually most sports books already made the change to 7.5. So if you can find an 8.5, I would definitely suggest that. And Teddy, also another interesting.
Which team's under 8.5 is he talking about?
Derek Brown, 8.5.
Oh, Derek Brown. Yeah. Okay.
But I actually, a lot of sports books have moved to 7.5, and something that I think speaks towards defensive linemen getting picked earlier. I believe all 8 teams selecting the first 8 selections are in the bottom 10 of defensive efficiency in the NFL. So something might be there to kind of get up on the defensive line. Teddy, next team up, we got Seattle Seahawks. They're lined at 9 for their season win totals. Opinion here on the Seattle Seahawks?
Sure. And again, I mean, Seattle, from a quarterback standpoint, all apologies to every other quarterback in the division, but the Seahawks have the best QB in the NFC West, in Russell Wilson. And when it comes, Carroll's and Seattle's been an overachieving team in recent years. They've been, you bet Seahawks over in the Pete Carroll era, you made money. Personnel-wise, they don't look as good as San Francisco. There's a reason they're lined in that 9-win range. There's the reason they're plus $2, plus $250 to win the division, even with the best QB. And of course, you talk about some of the losses in the offseason. They lost a fair bit, especially that offensive line and the pass rush. There are holes on Seattle right now. Again, we'll see what it looks like after the draft, but there are more holes than I'm used to seeing from the Seahawks. Both offensive line and defensive line are areas of clear weakness that the Seahawks are going to have to prep in the draft. And considering how poorly they've drafted offensive linemen over the last decade and developed offensive linemen, that is a concern to me. They need some receiving help too. So I mean, Seattle should be lined as a better than 500 team, which is what they are. They're lined in the 9-win range. And to me, that's the appropriate line where the Seahawks should be.
Okay. We got Arizona Cardinals up next. Also a question here in the chat box. Michael asking, when they say Justin Herbert 6.5, what does that mean? Rounds? No, that means the number, which pick he's selected in. Over, under 6.5 for that pick. But Teddy, next team up, we got Arizona Cardinals, 7.5 their season over here. What are you thinking for the birds in the desert?
So when we I wanted to touch on the over under 6.5. So if for the whatever player for the Seahawks but if he or for if the player's draft position is over under 6.5, if he gets drafted in the top 6 picks, he goes under, and if he gets drafted 7th or later, he goes over. I mean, it's a simple process. Arizona's a hot team in the betting markets. In the NFC West, they are the team that has been the hottest since the lines first came out, and it's understandable why. They made the big splashy move to get some guy named DeAndre Hopkins, who is elite. I don't think any question. And when you look at Kyler Murray and the skill position talent he has around him, it's as good as any in the NFL. I mean, it's scary. They are loaded with playmakers. All right. What about the rest of the team, though? That's the question with Arizona. There are holes all over the defense. There are holes all over the offensive line. This team has the potential. If they can fill those holes, they can win this division. There's enormous upside for Arizona. There really is. I mean, this team could, if you're looking for circle surprise potential teams, Arizona absolutely should be on that list if they can solve their problem in the trenches. I think they're better defensively than they were a year ago as well. I like a lot of the moves that they've made. Bringing a couple of linebackers who can play. There's upside on Arizona. And the markets, again, they're going to, the price is the 7.5 wins. They're going to be better than later.
Teddy, we also got the quarterback returning after his first offseason as a starter. That's a profile I like to be betting on the system he's in. Wide open, it seems to fit towards him. Those are all kind of bet on situations there. Teddy, also something about Arizona's NFL draft slot. They are number 8 about sports books going 8.5 to 7.5 on Derek Brown. I think that's a huge change because, like you just talked about, they have holes all over their defense and on their defensive line. Arizona selecting at 8. I really doubt Derek Brown drops below 8 because of that. Now, it's always hard to handicap trades, so I would just want to throw that in there, guys. If you're looking to be betting over or under Derek Brown on 7.5, it is a big difference, in my opinion, than the 8.5 number. Teddy, you ready to move on to the next team?
Yeah, we're getting near the end, man. They only got one left.
All right, Teddy. Well, you know who that one is. It's a team that's had a little trouble here, Teddy. Are you looking to be betting on them or looking to fade them?
So I don't think that there's been a single team in the NFL that's gotten more negative publicity this offseason than the LA Rams. Mm-hmm. Certainly among the wise guys. The wise guys are looking at LA like this is a dynasty that never was, and they're done. And they're looking at the betting markets are looking at this as a Carolina Panthers type projection. Remember the Panthers go 15-1, and the next year they're here, and then the next year it's and it's a gradual slide after that. And LA, who was built to win now, they made the one Super Bowl, and now last year they were down, and now this year they're a lot of questions. 6 contributors on defense gone. And I mean, big time contributors. Now, salary cap ramifications all up and down. A quarterback in Jared Goff that the betting markets don't really like. An offensive line that wasn't good last year, and they don't have money to make it better this year. So we talk about the Rams. This is a team where the markets, it's been one-way money. It's been against LA so far. I don't think that's going to change after the draft. And when all's said and done, again, you talk about that. We had a question about which coaching staffs do you trust and admire. Rams got a pretty darn good and a pretty sharp coaching staff. All right. You have a QB who's been to the Super Bowl. You have a fair bit of talent on that team still. I wouldn't be surprised if by September, the Rams are an undervalued commodity in the betting markets as they move into their new home. They're not a team that bettors have been excited about so far. And it's been nothing but under money on the Rams and nothing but money on the Rams to, not to win the division and not to make the playoffs and all of that. They lost some big names, Gurley, Fowler, Littleton, Matthews, on and on, Weddle, I mean, but it's an organization we trust, the coaching staff we trust, and sometimes the big name players who are gone in salary cap cuts, well, the guys that come in end up being a little bit hungrier, a little bit better than people think. I'm going to wait for the market to crash in the Rams, and then I may be looking at them as a bet on team. They have that potential for me at this stage of the offseason.
And they still got another year before their stadium, right, Teddy?
Is it?
Is it this year? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I thought it was. Let me just. I just read something about it. Rams.
Teddy, as you're looking that up, my question to you was, how much does what stadium you're like the Las Vegas Raiders, and then on the flip side of that, the LA Chargers, the stadium they were playing in. How much are you factoring that in with the whole coronavirus? Or they're even going to be fans?
So yeah, we know the Rams open this year. I was right. Yeah, it's supposed to. SoFi Stadium is supposed to open July 2020. In theory, the home field edges in a crowd-free environment are going to be real interesting to figure.
I know.
And let me start with this, okay? The markets don't know, the wise guys don't know, the casual bettors don't know, the bookmakers don't know.
No.
So if you can figure this out real early, there's potential. My gut reaction of how to approach these games with no home field, and again, this is pure speculation, but the teams that are hungrier will be fine. The teams that are fat and happy won't. Okay? The teams in general that have the strong, they may not, you discount a lot of those edges for those teams. That being said, there's still something about sleeping in your own bed versus, well, you got to go on the road.
Absolutely.
And play. Yeah. And again, we don't know how it's going to play out yet, but I still think there will be some home field advantage team after team, but it's obviously not likely to be priced in the markets anywhere near the standard 2.5, 3 points. It's really 2.75 that the NFL home field has been worth for the better part of the last couple of decades.
Teddy, awesome stuff, man. Breaking down the NFC West here, NFL draft as well. Shout out to everybody in the chat box. Great conversation, good questions as well. Teddy, anything you want to throw out before we shut this down?
I want to say thanks for, I always say thanks to take time out of your busy day. Nobody's busy. So thanks for taking time out of your not so busy day to hang out with you and I. And again, of course, we'll do it again next week. We'll break down another division. We'll talk about our NFL draft thoughts, and I'll give some grades on teams I thought did well and didn't do well. And it'll be a lot of fun again next Monday. Of course, you can catch me on Thursday doing the WagerTalk Betting 101 with Minty Bets. And Drew, you're hosting shows all week, aren't you?
I'm hosting a show tomorrow, the college football preview show, which we'll start talking a little draft on that. And then, yeah, of course, you can catch Teddy on Thursdays, get his analysis on the day of the draft with a lot better looking host. So you got that as well. Teddy, we got one more Twitter question here. And it's an interesting one from Pete here. Derek Brown, under 7.5 plus 110, or under 8.5 minus 230. Which one would you advise if you because that's a huge change.
No, it's not. It's worth more than that. You just talked about how at 8 he's not going past 8. So you take the under 8.5 minus 230.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's what a 200-point change there. That costs a lot of money
because he's going to get drafted in the 8th spot. It's worth 500 cents.
Okay.
If he's not sneaking past 8, that's the way you play it. Is you take the under 8.5 and you lay the juice with it. And make no mistake about it in terms of like what the wise guys are doing, what the pros are doing. When there's a juicy prop, minus $5, and it should be minus 2,000, there's value laying minus $5.
Okay.
I would only play the 8.5. I would not play the 7.5 just because, especially in a situation where we don't have that many opportunities to build bankroll on a day in, day out basis. If you take the safer bet, even if you lay a little bit extra juice with it, or a lot of extra.
Teddy. Yeah, great explanation there. He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. Shout out to the chat box, everybody in it. Scott, OG, Chris, what's up? Mark Carr as well, and thank you to Lawrence Presman behind the scenes. So, guys, best of luck. We'll be back next Monday, each and every Monday. 1:00 Eastern time, so come back and join us. Best of luck with your bets until then.